This is Lorebound. He's an idiot, or, if we're being kind, a well-meaning imbecile who bonked his head and forgot everything about Gielinor, literally. Now it is up to us, through the power of crippling bureaucracy, to help him relearn the world, one book, one NPC, and one painfully specific clue scroll at a time. Knowledge is learned in this household. I might know how RuneScape works, but Lorebound? He has the brain capacity of a well-groomed cabbage. So here's how it works. Lorebound can only equip items if they are mentioned in dialogue, books, or clue scrolls. No wiki, no guides, no hand-holding. Enemies, if they attack me on a quest, fair game. But unless they're mentioned, that random goblin wandering by, off limits. Oh, and I track every skill and item on a massive spreadsheet with color codes and more rules than the Varrock City Council meeting. Those spreadsheets were fine and fun and completely necessary. Let's not delay the inevitable. Let's let Lorebound loose. Let's start with some goals. Goals keep the depression at bay. We're not a fan of depression. Our top priorities? Let's unlock the world map, minimap, quest log, achievement diary, equipment panel, and then to top it off, a couple skills. I figure bashing my head through a few dialogue trees with some tutors nearby and completing a few basic Lumbridge quests would be a solid start to this. Unfortunately, like a heathen, I did this in no particular order, and it ended up actually giving me whiplash when I began to edit this stuff. And it was one of the saddest, driest 6,500 word essay I have ever made. We're not gonna do that. That makes me want to strangle chickens. And we can't strangle chickens because chickens are still locked. Instead, let us expedite the monotony through song and interpretive dance. Kidding. Cook's assistant. Yes, the same one you've already seen in every Lumbridge start video ever. It unlocks pots, buckets, flour, eggs, milk, coins, wheat, the ability to gather wheat, mill the wheat, and milk cows. And while some of these are okay, coins stands out as super important, as now we can buy basic tools once we know how to use them. Shockingly, despite the quest being about a cake, the chef never once mentions a cake tin, or the ability to cook a cake. He mentions cake specifically, so we can eat cake, but we can't bake cake.
Quest completed.
We're not done with him though. With our agility level at 1 and our run energy nearing 0 at all times, I go ahead and start Recipe for Disaster. Why not? Don't want to have to run back here anyways. Not exactly your typical second quest, but the startup dialogue does unlock a few things. Eye of Newt, Rotten Tomatoes, Greenman's Ale, and a Dirty Blast, which has a legible component list of pineapples, oranges, lemons, lemon slices, and a cocktail shaker. Too bad we can't cut lemons, as he doesn't mention a knife. The Lumbridge guide dialogue was a goldmine. Minimap, quest journal, eating food, kind of important, and even this mythical iron dagger across the river, and also goblin spiders and chickens. Not bad. Oh, but that cabbage unlock, worth every second I spent peeling through that dialogue. And cabbage seeds? Oh, don't get me started. Once we reach the required farming level and also unlock the rake, dibber, compost, it is over. We have basically won the game. Free real estate. Unfortunately, other mentions like meat or fish were quite vague. It's a category, not an item, so they don't count. Funnily enough, his dialogue was specific enough to mention that we could cook chickens at fires and ranges, so that's a big skilling concept for Lorebound. Other ingredients, nowhere to be found. Then he has the audacity to suggest we open the wiki. The wiki. How shameful. Banker talks about a bank. It's a bank. Unlock granted. Extra bank coins. Guess Lorebound must have forgotten about those in there. Totally not going to take those. Hacius Causantus gives us the achievement diary. Arthur the Clue Hunter? Clues. All about him. Everything. He even mentions Watson and the Master Clue turn-ins. He doesn't quite say enough about coordinates, clues, and spades, which is unfortunate, but Vios, who we talk to immediately after, takes care of the spade usage. He also starts X marks the spot, so we'll circle back to that guy. The Axeman teaches us the basics of woodcutting and firemaking. Admiring nature is apparently required. He fails to mention any specific axe or anything besides regular logs, so we are somewhat limited to what we cut. Not that our level could produce much more. The combat tutors were both very, very helpful and also very not helpful at all. This is what I mean. The melee combat tutor told us about attack styles, but he only used broad categories mentioning the weapons, so no actual weapon unlocks. Besides the training equipment, that is. He does unlock and talk about about the worn items panel though, so now we can equip and unequip at will. The range tutor, basic bow, training bow, and arrows, along with some basic fletching skills, cause it ain't fun unless it's knife fun. We can make shafts, headless arrows, and even arrowheads if we can get a bar mention, along with flax, spinning wheels, and bowstring, the whole A to Z bow fletching. And to make sure they one-up the melee tutor, they also open our main world map. Can't be more unlocked than an NPC opening it and pointing out something on it. But then we get to the mage tutor. How disappointing. No name drops at all. And when we returned 30 minutes later and got more runes, because of course range and mage tutors don't like giving out stuff at the same time, he remained cryptic in all of his wording. Through context, it could be said that Wind Strike was implied between active runes and the runes he ends up giving us, so I'm putting this unlock behind a poll. You can learn more about this and other polls that I'll mention near the end of the video. After that horrible start, the mage tutor did redeem himself a little bit when talking about rune crafting, talismans, rune essence, and tiaras, which kind of seemed a bit advanced for a tutor that didn't tell us anything else, but I'm not complaining. If we find someone mention tiara molds, we might be in business. The prayer tutor, way down yonder, give us access to burying and altar use of regular and big bones. They also mention POH altars, which I guess is the first thing we can technically build once construction is available to us. The prayer book itself was also unlocked. However, based on her description, the only prayers she actually mentions is rapid heal and protect item. Through very pointed descriptions and not exact wordage, but there was no mistaking what these were talking about, so I'm going to count these. Prayer potions was not an unlock I was expecting here, but here it is, as well as recharging my prayer at altars. When in Rome, start the Restless Ghost quest. When not in Rome, pick some cabbages. When back in Rome, tease the ghost, wonder where Father Bert went, tease the ghost again, and then get hopelessly lost because the quest guide says the skull is in the wizard's tower and you have a firm memory of the skull being in the southeast Lumbridge mine. Thank you, RS3 brain rot. Eventually, after a thorough investigation of every box south of the bridge and subsequent starting of Imp Catcher, which unlocks imps by the way, I discovered the skull was in fact staring at me for an unnecessarily long amount of time. The skull also had a friend. As it turns out, the level 10 combat recommendation was not empty. This skeleton hit me like a truck, insomuch that my cabbages could not keep up with his damage. Fortunately, as I began hiding around the altar, leashing him while trying to heal up, the skeleton despawned. Skull returned, quest complete, we yoink up a large amount of prayer XP. And this candle guy, super helpful. Not only did he unlock lit and unlit candles for us, but also the glass to make candle lanterns, oil lamps, lantern frames, steel frames, bullseye lanterns, and even mentions the Remington chemist as an oil source. It would be a real shame if Alien Food didn't find this and needed to fill a lamp at one point in his questing campaign. With the fishing tutor nearby, we unlock fishing with small nets, large nets, and both rods. However, we can only catch and cook shrimp. Everything else, mackerel, cod, anchovies, trout, and salmon, are just raw, both in sadness and in substance. This smithing tutor is a dick. He doesn't even acknowledge you unless you have ores in your inventory. The mining tutor, vague as fog. You can mine the ores around here. Geez, thanks. I guess I can mine the unnamed copper and tin ores in this small mine exclusively, and nowhere else. Partial unlock complete, I guess? Okay, Scrooge, name drop some stuff, please. Huh, and name drop he did. But nowhere near what we needed. Bronze bars, because his specific bronze anvil only allows bronze, and a hammer, but no specific items. Remember those arrowheads I mentioned before? I think, using our rule set, we should be able to make bronze arrowheads, given that both bronze the category and arrowheads the category were both technically mentioned. This, like many of my moral failures, will go to the polls. To counteract the potential strictness of these rules, I do feel it's fair that if it's named in a clue scroll, it is fair game. Game text is still text. Excuse me for the imp-terruption, but yellow bead drop on imp number 1. The cooking tutor, while vague for a lot of things, drops a lot of really good references, including raw beef, cows, baked potatoes, still need to get regular potatoes, butter, and cheese. In context with the dairy churn, we can theoretically extend our unlocks to potato, butter, and cheese variations. These are going to be great low and mid-game food items. It is a bit grind heavy, as dairy churning is notoriously slow, but I think if we can pick potatoes, this is going going to be a completely self-sustainable food loop. And then there was anglerfish. Yeah, I was as surprised as you were. The man name drops anglerfish. Of lesser note, there's brewing with all of the necessary steps, such as bucket of water, barley, malt, beer glass, and keg, but anglerfish, damn. Other notable things, the entire pie recipe from pie dish to finished apple and red berry pie, and last but certainly not least, standard and anchovy pizza, also start to finish. Our last tutor of the day was the crafting tutor, which name dropped a lot. Needle, thread, tanning in Alcarid, wool spinning, leather from cows, yaks, and snakes, wet clay, potter's wheel, pots, pie dishes and bowls, molten glass, glass blowing pipes, using a chisel on a gem, molds as a category specifically for sickles and silver bolts, which at this point doesn't surprise me anymore. However, the tutor's dialogue was not without its sad moments. Soda ash and sand were mentioned, but how to get them were not. Which means, if it's a drop, it's fair game. However, we still have no method of making these ourselves yet. And icing on the cake, dragon leather was a little too vague, as was leather-covered wooden shields and jewelry making in general. While it gave a broad sense of how to make them, we are still gonna need some specific names for the gemstones, the enchants, and the jewelry type in order to unlock them. Rune Mysteries was started at Duke Horatio, and Sigmund Freud had a quest, but we're too low to start it. Canoe Man teaches us we need level 12 to use the log transport system. Ned teaches us nothing, but also Lorebound is oddly knowledgeable on the making of rope for some reason. And thinking of rope and wool, I thought it was a good time to hit up the sheep shearer quest. Unfortunately, my monkey brain was telling me that Fred resided somewhere in this general area. He did not. After probably 20 minutes of searching, he was here. Yep. Snip, spin, complete. Old man, absolute wealth of unlocks. We can run tasks to get him free stuff. We can be teased by the potential of Saradomin Strike. I want to say some words, but I'm pretty sure they're inappropriate on YouTube. Oh yeah, no biggie, but we can also kill the King Black Dragon. And the Calphite Queen. Now I know what you're saying. Those are chump bosses compared to the Shakayahan, the fearsome jungle beast. And you'd be right. I didn't even know you could kill one of these creatures yourself. Oh, wise old man, please bestow more wisdom upon our unworthy heads. Steel dragons, zombies, jungle spiders, jungle ogres, aka jogers, giants, hobgoblins, the concept of Slayer Masters. I didn't even know this was locked, but for cinematic purposes, yeah, Slayer Masters unlocked. Enchanted Dragonstone Rings. What a killer sentence for us. That allows us to cut dragonstones, create dragonstone rings from the ring mold, since we have molds unlocked, but we didn't have the ring mold unlocked until we had a ring to mold, and then enchant dragonstone if we can airstrike up to that, if it passes the polls. Wait till the end to see more of that. Then we are going to be rolling in it. Now, out of left field, yes, even more left field than Shakalaka Haki Han, whatever his name is, was old random event mobs, rock golems, river trolls, and tree spirits in particular. Now, when I get the unreal level of farming XP required to complete Fairy Tale Part 1 and 2, I will be very excited to farm these guys for their rune axe and pickaxe drops if they're unlocked by the time I need them. Thank you, old man, your wisdom knows no bounds. Let's finally unpack X Marks the Spot. We breeze through the first clue items, but we end up needing to actually check in with Vios since this orb clue pops up, and nobody taught us about this orb. He knows about it though, so yay, we can continue. I've never actually done a cipher clue outside of a RuneLite plugin, so that was fun to figure out. And then there's the casket. Hey, Corrend me, King. Thanks, bud. Follow-up quest, take a scroll, talk to the general store owners to gather information on the greater Corrend area, and don't forget your feather. I forgot my feather. I still don't have the necessary tools. I forgot to enchant the feather. Thank you, kind ma'am, for the anglerfish name drop. And thank you for the extra gold, old man. Now, as part of this challenge, there are times where you just feel the urge to talk to random NPCs as you cross their paths and hope for another item unlock. These three men are the worst example, as they gave us nothing. Ragnath, on the other hand, clear winner. Not only did he have a magic stock, stocking our much-needed Eye of Newt for the recipe for Disaster Quest, but he also name drops the Blood and Soul Altar, as well as the Dark altar. And since we haven't gotten particularly ahead in the game with regular spells, it could be worth investigating to see if the Arceus spellbook has some name drops. And with that, we actually need to halt our episode for the day. I know, we have accomplished so much. Dozens of unlocks, multiple NPCs stripped of dialogue, and we are now bursting at the seams with overwhelming power from apple pies and the ability to vaguely threaten goblins. Yes, we are mid-quest, but I have 27 Excel worksheets that I need to populate with all of these notes. Our quill will remain sharp, and our cabbage will remain ready, but the chickens will still be mocking us from behind their gate. All I ask is for a little bit of patience and your life savings in the form of assorted gift cards. Next time, we'll clear the remainder of the Kurend quest, pick off some more basic quests with some difficulty, and also set something on fire, probably. Poll time! I mentioned polls. Here's polls. If you click on my name, and then go to the Posts tab, you'll see a few polls that will solidify some important series rules. So please take a moment to vote on them. Poll number 1, Airstrike and Bronze Arrowhead context exceptions. Poll 2, Clue Scroll unlocking skill training. And poll number 3, something that we see in text but only in the chat boxes instead of regular verbal dialogue, are collection log items. So make sure to go there and vote for your favorite option. What do you think would allow you, the viewer, to have the most fun? How rigid do you want our rule set to be? Thank you so much for making it this far. Thank you so much for watching. If the second episode is out, you can continue watching the series with a pop-up on the right, or better yet, hit the subscribe button to the left and then hit the button to the right. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Toodles.